Thank you, servers, for doing the tough job.
Here we go.
You can't do this, Jacques. It's never been done before.
Mr. Blake.
You can't see down with that thing.
Mr. Blake!
Jacques, what?
They're coming.
Hold them up. Find something. Jacques, I'm telling you for the last time.
Are the Canadians finished?
His plant coming back on the ice.
Come on, give us something, will you?
Please, how many stitches?
Gentlemen, please.
Go.
Hey, Tony, that's not the people
On November 1st, 1959, Jacques Plante of the Montreal Canadiens broke with tradition
You're a brave man, Mr. Plant, standing up to him like that.
and changed the face of hockey forever.
What's up, party people? Jason Piercey here. I am host of what used to be Sam and Jason Unfiltered, but I gotta roll up my sleeves for this one because, get this, Sam goes on vacation to Spain, meets this handsome and charming salsa dancer. I just feel like that's where salsa dancing come from. And now she's never ever coming back. So I'm just gonna call it the like Jason Unfiltered show, or like WTF with Jason maybe? I don't know, we'll work on it. But yeah, so it's just me. Actually, that's a lie. It's not just me. But Sam did go to Spain, but she's home. However, she's super, super home, like literally in her house, out in CBS, and she joins us now through the magic of the internet. Hi, Sam.
What's up? Why would you scare our people like that?
Well, I guess I just wanted to watch the live stream after when I get home and like watch the comments and see whether people liked or didn't like that you weren't going to be around anymore. And I wanted, like, I got a whole pool. I got a whole betting pool of people who were like, will they, won't they, do we like her, do we not? And I mean, because it's Rogers. I've been around for a while. You're the rookie.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to be okay. So let's not do that anymore. Oh, there he is. There he is.
Puss. Puss is joining us. Oh, Catbutt on live TV. This is great. So you did go to Spain, though, right? I just spit on the desk.
Right.
This show is going really well so far. So you did go to Spain on vacation, and when you went there, the place wasn't infested with COVID-19. It was a cool, safe place to go. Somewhere during the time, possibly you brought it with you. We can't be sure, right? We can't be sure.
Okay, so that's why we're going to talk about this right now. Because,
okay, let's talk about it.
Yes, I did go to Spain, and when I booked my ticket, there was no concern really for the coronavirus in Spain. It only really came about as I was kind of at the end of my trip and making my way home. So it's definitely very interesting, and there's a lot of information out there. And there's, it's definitely something to be concerned about, and that's why I am here and you are there, because a lot of businesses have protocols and procedures put in place that, you require 14 days of, no symptoms before you can go in certain places. Now, that really, I think is important to protect the people of the public and respect health and, the severity of what it could be. But I will say that I have no symptoms. I feel really good. I'm just taking a few extra precautions to make sure that everything is okay.
And I personally really appreciate it because it is possible that you could just be incubating and not have symptoms yet, correct?
Right.
Now,
so, it could be, now they say it takes, it could be like 2 to 5 or, I've seen a lot of information. I'm going to tell you that. And I have done quite a bit of research. But in the next day or two, I should be in the absolute clear. So, again, you are only contagious if you have symptoms. And I mean, we can jump right into it, and I can kind of tell you what I've discovered today about it, because I don't think a lot of people are talking about it from a personal experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Like a lot of what you see is sort of, I don't want to say hearsay, but it's very clickbaity and very sensationalized, and it's very like who can get the most views or the most likes or shares on their stupid, crappy little article full of lies, because everybody wants as much attention as they can possibly get.
Right, and I do believe it's the first pandemic since social media. Someone mentioned that to me earlier today, and they said how it's the first time that we've gone through a pandemic through our social media time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because when it was H1N1, when it was SARS, when it was bird flu, when it was swine flu, like things didn't spread. No, it's so funny to say it like that. Of course, the infections or the viruses, the diseases spread, but the conversation about it wasn't quite, the virality wasn't there for that part. So that's interesting. This is the first pandemic that we're seeing come across in that way. So you did your own research just because you wanted to know that you were protecting yourself, but not just yourself, because you also have a large amount of employees. So you're going to your office, and if you were sick, I mean, we know that you're not. You've got a lot of respect for what's going on in our local community. So the risk-reward factor is just for another day or two, it's just not worth it. But you got a lot of employees.
Really, as much as I miss it, I haven't been there in like over 10 days, and that for me is a lot. I just wanted to take just a few extra days and just make sure that I was completely in the clear. I felt fine the entire time. I feel fine now. So I just wanted to just give myself a few extra days and just make sure everything is okay. After chatting with my GP today, also the public health nurse, and then even as far as speaking to the public health office.
Okay,
and the common denominator there, and I think this is really important, is if you are not symptomatic, or if you do not have symptoms, you do not need to quarantine for 14 days. Now, of course, businesses and other establishments have their own protocol where they could say, you know, just because then you're in Spain in general, we're gonna ask that you respect our wishes and not, you know, come on the premises for 14 days until we know you're in the clear, which is really understandable.
Yeah, and which is the case here at Rogers TV. So like Rogers being such a large...
That's why we're doing this right now. But the real medical side of it is that you do not need to be quarantined unless you are showing symptoms. Because with this particular virus, it is transmitted through droplets of actual like saliva or a sneeze, and you basically need to like immediately touch something that someone like sneezed on, or inhale it, or like make out with somebody that has it. So it's not easy to catch.
Yeah.
So, you know, that being said, I think still taking a few extra precautions, even though I know I absolutely do not have it, I think it's just smart and respectful, you know.
And really, let's face it, like for the matter of a day or so, like even knowing that you're asymptomatic and it's not possible to catch something from you, even if you did have it, which you don't, the risk reward, even if like it was such the percentage would be so small that you could carry it, the risk factor, it's just not worth it for, you know what I mean? For the matter of a day or two, and for your business and for your clients and for your employees, right? And for me mostly, right?
Yeah, mostly you, of course. All about you, Jason.
Well, listen,
but I also,
somebody needs to look into the monitor
and
and fix
I
their
think
hair.
they said there was 44 cases where people were tested. So like when I called my public health nurse, I was like, can I just get a test? Because that would just, you know, solve any concerns or any doubt that I had, even though I feel completely fine. I was like, well, a test is like a test. I can get results and just, you know what I mean? But they do what's called a pre-screening on the phone. So if you're feeling like you have flu symptoms or you're congested, have trouble breathing, you can call your public health nurse, and she will do, or they will do, a full like 30-minute screening on the phone with you, and that will determine then if you're eligible to move forward for the nasal swab is what they do. So I didn't even get to that point. The only one thing that I have in common with the coronavirus is that I was in Spain. So that's not enough for them to allow me to get tested, basically.
So I was scrolling through Instagram earlier today, prior to seeing your story, because you did a story a little bit, and maybe we'll elaborate and talk a little bit about that. But when I was scrolling through, I saw a meme that I thought was funny, and I'm not making light of a pandemic, but somebody had said, it was like a text to their girlfriend, it was like, baby, it's the first documented case of corona here locally. And she was like, oh my God, what happened? And he just sent a picture of like a dozen corona in a fridge. And her response was like, bleep you. which is funny. I mean, it can't be the first person to make the joke.
I know, it's not funny, but it's funny because what's happening is social media is blowing this up. I mean, every second post on Instagram is about coronavirus, and I think it's adding to the paranoia. And what's happening is like health professionals and doctors are suggesting that people call the public health line before going into the doctor and just kind of verbally describing your symptoms before you go out in public and whatever, and you can be screened from that point on instead of what they're finding is out of the 44 people that were actually swabbed, 22 of them came back negative, and the other 22 just haven't come back yet. They're just waiting for them. So
there
I think
aren't
a lot of people are panicking a little bit, getting the flu. Again, it's that time of year.
Yeah.
So I think people are panicking a little bit, which is totally understandable. At the end of the day, you want to be safe over sorry. You know what I mean? Especially in this type of situation.
Yeah.
But instead of maybe rushing into the emergency room or rushing into your doctor, call the public health line, and they can kind of screen you over the phone.
So, I mean, is that here locally, is that the right thing? Like if you're feeling sort of sniffly or sneezy and you have either been out of the country or are you even in another province? Because like there was a death in BC a couple of days ago, and there's a few documented cases there and 20-something in Ontario. Is that the first move? Like through your research and having just come back from Spain?
Yeah.
Call the public health
so
system?
that would be your first move, is to call the public health line.
And do the screening, determine whether or not you're a candidate for a nasal swab?
Yeah, so basically what happens is you stay home, and then they send a nurse to you in a full hazmat suit, and they do a nasal swab.
Now,
it's really serious.
Yeah, of course. That sounds like a good Instagram story for you to do. Like get the nurse coming in.
Why can't I just have it? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It's not funny.
No, I know you're good. Okay, so can we just talk a little bit about your trip, kind of?
Yeah.
Because it must have been fun.
I totally do that. So, the first place I went was Andorra, and Andorra is its own principality. I think that's the right word. So some people are like, it's a part of France or it's a part of Spain, and it's not. It's kind of a part of both, or it's its own individual country on its own. And like the King of Spain and the King of France both decided that they would share. And it's duty-free, so you don't pay any taxes. It has its own language, which is a mixture. I can't remember the name of the language, but it's a mixture of French and Spanish. It's like when you I picture like Germany and Switzerland mixed together, like all the stone buildings, and everyone just skis. So if you don't ski or snowboard, you really wouldn't go to Andorra, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I wanted to just go somewhere different. I didn't ski, but it was still nice to experience a new place like that. There was no cabs and I had no data, so I felt really kind of isolated.
Very out of the loop.
Yeah, I had traveled basically across the world by the time I got there. So once I got there, I almost took about 2 days adjusting to even being there.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it was cold. and there was a snowstorm, and I was questioning my decisions.
Listen, you should
and now
have just
to come home
stayed
and have
here
these types of
because
precautions, I was like, should I have even went?
Yeah, you
But I
should have
don't like
stayed
to
here
live
because we
like that. I don't like to
canceled.
regret anything. At the end of the day, I had an amazing experience in going to different countries, so it was amazing. But here we are, right?
Sam.
So after living in Andorra, I went to Barcelona, Spain, and that was absolutely incredible. But it was amazing to see that there was less people there, I guess, because of the travel advisory and stuff like that. So that was very interesting. When typically there would be these huge lineups to see these tourist attractions, it was almost like you just walk right in, and it's a little bit scary to think about how it's affecting the world.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really got to experience some really, really beautiful things that I didn't really think I ever would.
You went to Germany too, right?
Yeah, I was only in the airport in Germany. So
okay.
I did learn a few things though when I was in the airport about Germany. And this is hard because I can't see your face right now. I don't know if you people know this, but I can't see Jason, so I'm just staring at myself, which is fine. I think I look really good.
Well, here's what I'll tell you about me. Our audience will notice. I got a haircut and I've trimmed down recently, so I'm looking very, very debonair and very attractive, really. Let's be honest. And so I'm just saying. Actually, can you bring that over for a second, Mitch? So one of our PAs here, Mitch. No, like literally give it to me. No, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. Okay, so I have been watching this, and I don't mean to call you out on live TV, Mitch. Sam, you'll appreciate this. So, Mitch, he writes like. Does it look all right? No, it looks fantastic. It's just I have a question for you. This is backwards, right? And I don't know why, but Mitch seems to think like he's telling me how much time we have left, and of course this is like 13 minutes remain, right? And he's writing it and looking at it in the mirror to make sure that it can be read in a mirror. But then he just turns around and shows it to me, right to my face. And I'm wondering, Mitch, like, why do you need to write it? No, I see the same thing you see, dude. Why? I don't need, it's not necessary.
I'm working so hard.
So anyway, I just thought that was really funny and we could use a little, because obviously coronavirus, COVID-19, very serious conversation. Locally, not a massive impact as of right now, and hopefully it won't be, because people like yourself, Sam, are making unselfish decisions to give yourself the time to make sure that something isn't incubating or isn't manifesting, so we can look after ourselves here locally. So hopefully we're not going to have a massive impact if people keep being responsible like you are. And I think that's the right way to look at it. What you're doing right now is responsible.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's hard for me because I love what I do, and I've been away for a little bit, and it bothers me. But I work so closely with people, I just did not want to take that risk at all. It's really not worth it. So again, if you travel somewhere that is infected or has someone that has the coronavirus, just do yourself a favor and call the public health line and honestly, you don't even need to call if you don't have symptoms. I was just doing it because I was like freaked out by the internet. Yeah. And I was like, I feel absolutely fine, but I'm just going to call. And she was like, don't be so silly. She actually kind of chuckled at me at one point and was like, do you think that what would happen if every single person that traveled from Newfoundland just came back and didn't go to work for 14 days? I mean, it's just not really practical. So really, the only time to be concerned is if you are feeling, again, shortness of breath, congested, and you have a really bad cough.
Yeah, or
first
fever.
step is to call your public health nurse and go through the screening process.
So I find that part, I find it really interesting that there's so much sort of conflicting advice, because you told me earlier, like when you called your GP, like they were just like instantly 14 days quarantine.
Yeah, before they even asked me really any questions if I had symptoms, I was like, well, I just came home from Spain, 3 days ago. And they were like, well, you should self-quarantine for 14 days. And I was like, hold up. Let me explain to you a little bit more of, how I'm feeling. And then so what's happening, I think like the World Health Organization, the government, the public health nurses, the public health office, and then the GPs, like the actual like family doctors. I don't know if, especially here in Newfoundland, I just don't know if everyone is communicating efficiently because we don't have anyone here that's a confirmed case of it. But I think it's important to be ahead of the ball game, be ahead of the if it does happen in the panic. And everyone needs to kind of be on the same page and be consistent with the information that you're providing to the public so that there's not any confusion and that it can be effectively, controlled.
So I'd like to, if we can, I'd like to talk about sort of preventative stuff. Like I spoke to a couple of people that I know personally. One is a naturopath who I've had treatment with before for some adrenal issues that I had in the past. And I also spoke to a nutritional therapist. Coincidentally, Eat Real Therapy, they're the people that I can credit with being so attractive now. This is why I'm so slim, because Kathy at Eat Real Therapy helped me out a lot. And both of them went about the same way. There's no short-term fix to increase your immunity. There's no supplement you can take to increase your immunity. But, and both of these people who are professionals in their field, both agree that eating well to make sure you're getting nutrient-rich and dense items, and sleeping well, like especially right now, given that we had an adjustment in our sleep schedules, like with daylight savings changing, that hour change messes people up. So when you're not sleeping well and you're not eating well, your entire body is just at a higher risk of everything all of the time because you don't have the ability to fight stuff off. So while you can't,
going on in your life and things like that too, your immune system definitely gets jeopardized.
Yeah, absolutely. So while you can't short-term, like take this pill or that pill to make yourself stronger, it's always a good idea to live a healthier lifestyle, because when a pandemic like COVID-19 pops up, you're stronger and less likely, because you and I were talking about some of the data. The 80% of cases are mild, right? But the ones that are severe happen to be with people who have preconceived or pre-existing conditions like some kind of respiratory issue, heart disease, diabetes. These are the people who already have chinks in their armor. They're the ones that are having severe cases, most often, not always, severe cases, and the ones that are unfortunate enough to have passed from it. So what is the stuff that, like, having traveled, I mean, you must have been given some instruction on how do you protect yourself? Because you've been very diligent.
Right. So before traveling, I stocked up on hand sanitizer, and I know everyone's like kind of giving each other kind of some slack for that, and just now there's none to be found. But I will tell you right now, I used every single bit of it. I wore a mask, and they say that a mask is not really that effective, and I just feel like it is, though, because it prevented me from touching my mouth, and it prevented me from like breathing in maybe someone else's
I'd like to elaborate.
bacteria.
I'd like to elaborate on that just for a second, because wearing the mask, that World Health Organization doesn't recommend that to keep you from receiving. However, if you are sick, I mean, it would be nice not to spit all over everybody, but it kept you from touching your. So I get that. Yeah.
Yeah,
and you mentioned the sanitizer.
To, like, peel off, like if I have dry skin, I'll like peel off on my like the skin on my lips, which I know it's not attractive to think about, but I think a lot of people do that. It's like a habit. You're just like picking, or I'll like touch my face a little bit, and having that on just made me so much more conscious and aware of those things. What's really important is wiping down the areas that you're in. Like even when I'd go to a restaurant. And like literally using my elbows and my feet to like open doors or to like flush a toilet.
You must have looked so charming.
So huge on the airplane. Wiping everything down was really, really important.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm here. You can't see, like we said, you can't see, but I have Purell here right now, and I'm sanitizing my hands because I just feel gross talking to you. Like I'm trying to.
Oh my God, I hate you.
I'm teasing. I miss you. Like, listen, you should not have went away, because we had to cancel an episode and run a rerun like 4 or 5 episodes into the season because you decided to go on hiatus and go to Spain with all the handsome swing dancers. Swing?
I know. It's terrible. I feel really bad. And at the end of the day, I don't know if it was worth it. No, I'm kidding. it was really great. It was a lovely experience. What's funny about Europe, I've been to Europe now. Well, this will be my second time. So I was in London, Amsterdam, and Prague, and now I've been to, I guess, Germany, where the airport, Andorra, and Spain, Barcelona. But what I find is different because Newfoundland is so small. It's so small here. When you go to like these big places, like millions and millions of people, and it's even like anywhere else, pretty much aside from Newfoundland, you're just like moving. It's just like go, 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 go. Like you don't have time to like stop and be like, hey, how's Sandra? How's your mother? How's your grandmother? How's so-and-so? How's your dog? It's just like go, go, go. And I remember I was on a tour bus and I saw someone like completely collide into someone else. And it wasn't even like, what are you doing? It was just like, oh, we collide, and then you just keep going. And it was very interesting to just see how different it is. It's like when you're just so exposed to masses of people, it almost numbs you to certain things. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's hard to say. 'Cause I know what you mean. I think there's pros and cons to both sides, right? Like everything else.
I think so too, because again, like I mentioned on my Instagram and flying home, because you know in the Toronto airport, the Newfoundland gates, it's always the same gate, and you go and you walk in there, and it's almost like you're like home, and you walk on the plane, and you're like, hey, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? How's it going? And
it's
everyone's
also kind of
chit-chatting
funny
amongst themselves, because you know if you chat within 30 seconds, you'll find a common denominator, and that's really special. I think there's something really special about
Definitely
that.
it is.
And then, but at the same time, it's something really special about being able to be invisible just for a second, just to, you know, be more in here and not focused about out here, if that makes any sense.
So expanding on what you said there, because we only got a couple of minutes left. I know you're always surprised at how fast this goes.
That's insane!
Okay, so you only got a couple of minutes left, but I have a couple of points that I wanted to make. You were talking about Newfoundlanders in the airport and the gate always being in the same place. You don't even need to know the number though, because you can just walk around and you can see the people seated and be like, they're all from Newfoundland. And it's just like a feeling you get. I don't know if it's the Fox racing jacket that they're wearing or the hat. I don't know what it is, but you can, or maybe it's all of the Blundstones. Everybody, I don't know. But you just know that they're all the Newfoundlanders. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is when it comes to travel, so you and I have talked about this. I've been recruited to go speak at a real estate conference in North Carolina at the end of this month. But yesterday, the governor of North Carolina put a state of emergency in place on the entire state. So, I mean, I can still go because it's not like when Danny Breen went state of emergency and we weren't allowed to leave our damn houses. It's like we're reallocating resources so that if things go to the next level, we're already prepared. But I'm thinking that I might not be able to go, and it's kind of breaking my heart a bit.
See, that's the tough part. Like, again, when I bought my ticket, I was like, no, there's no concerns. I'm just going to go. And now I'm not happy that I'm kind of in this situation right now. Thankfully, I don't have anything, but even having to take the precaution has been, you know, a little bit stressful. I think you're healthy. I don't think you're going to get it. But then again, if there's a state of emergency, I know it's really tough. It's a tough decision to make.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're like down to like less than a minute. Would you be? Listen, don't be so surprised. It happens every time. Don't be. You got less than a minute, 30 seconds. Tell me, what would you say to people right now? Because you've done your own research, because you have been quote unquote exposed. You know you're cool. You spoke to the public health system. You spoke to your own GP. You did your own research. In, let's call it 20 seconds, what's your advice to people?
I would say don't panic. Call your public health nurse if you feel like you have symptoms. Because again, if I don't have a cough, I can't pass it on. If I'm not sneezing on you, I can't pass it on. So it's really the only time you should be concerned, I feel like personally, based on my research, is if you have symptoms.
Okay, amazing.
Call your public health nurse. First step.
Perfect. That's everything that we have. Sam, come back in the studio next week if you can. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Jason Unfiltered. See you next week.
Bye.
RogersPlaceTV.com.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Hi, I'm Melissa Royal-Critch, host of Wednesday nights on Out of the Fog on Rogers TV. Every week we chat with political, business, and community leaders about things going on right here in our city. So tune in at 7:30 or again at 9 o'clock on Wednesdays on Out of the Fog.
Hi, and welcome to 1111. I'm Roberta Hewitt, and today we are filming from a really interesting and eclectic shop downtown on Water Street West, Brassy Lassie. And we are going to be talking to the owner-operator of this amazing little store, Andrea Devine. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Roberta.
Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me, how did you come up with Brassy Lassie?
I was living up the shore, so the Irish loop was kind of like a thing. Dad was in Dublin, so the whole like Lassie thing came into play, and it was like a play on words, and my hair was like fire engine red. It was all like, Mom didn't like the name, but I did, so I stuck with